found Chop, the original Guillotine League podcast. Everything you need to know to avoid the chopping block. Chop is brought to you by GuillotineLeagues.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Conference Championship edition of Chop, the Guillotine League podcast. I am Matthew Freedman, Matt at the Oracle, and I'm here with Brian Johnson.
What up,
Brian,
Freedman?
How's it going, man? So, I have the lingering cough. I think you are dealing with, some sort of like head cold kind of issue.
Yeah,
Matt Lamarca, our producer, is dealing with internet issues. I mean, I don't want to say like we're heroes. We're just everyday guys grinding, sacrificing for the betterment of everyone around us. But yeah, this is what we do. How's it going, man?
Yeah, man. At this point of the season, in this industry, we're mentally, held together by duct tape right now. But we're here. We're still grinding through the Guillotine League season. We still got leagues running. I know we just did a draft. We'll talk about soon, but. Yeah, wild weekend. Wasn't a wild card weekend, wild weekend in the divisional round. It's interesting because most of the highest scoring players, especially a quarterback, Josh Allen and Bo Nix, got you through most likely, but not usable anymore. And Nix, that's never, I can't remember anything this ever happening this late in the season, right after, you're going to the conference championship. You hear news like that. But I think, I know I've got a team where I've got only two players left that advance, but all my other players are, they've been eliminated because their teams are out. So I've got a lot of bidding to do, but we'll talk about that later as well. But season's still going strong. GuillotineLeagues.com, that's for sure.
Yes, season's still going strong, and I will say, the mind is still willing. The body is failing at this point of the football season, but. I'm really intrigued by the games that we have coming up, and we're obviously going to talk about them as we're going through the draft that we just did. And Brian, to your point, we still have Guilloteenies available. And right before we recorded, we did a double chop draft. So you and I were in it. Nando DeFino, head of content, was in it, and producer Matt Lamarca was in that draft. So we're going to walk through that. Let's go ahead and pull up the draft board. By the way, this draft brought to you by Xfinity. Imagine all of your football all in one place. Easy. Xfinity. Imagine that. Imagine Xfinity. Love Xfinity. All right. Let's get into the draft that we did. Mm-hmm. And
a double chop. So this was 4 teams. Single chop would be 3. And well, go ahead. But the interesting with the double chop is someone's got to have Jarrett Stidham in this one, but we'll get to that. He didn't go in the early rounds, of course, but that's the big differentiator, I would say, between the single and double chops at this point.
Yes. So as the refresher, for the roster requirements, you have a quarterback, you have 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and 2 flexes. And now that we are down to, and especially in the double chop, it gets tight really quick. Now that we're down to just 4 NFL teams and you have to start 2 running backs, and 4 fantasy teams in this game, you do the math, it gets thin really quick at running back. The two biggest names, you can say CMC, James Cook, no more.
They've been eliminated. Zach Charbonnet, certainly a contributor for the Seahawks. He is done. So running back thinner than ever. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So, all right, let's start at the 101, and that is Matt Lamarca's team.
Kind of no surprise at this point, right? Or is it? I mean, now it's like earlier, in the wild card drafts, I was saying, I'm not too worried about advancement possibilities. Like, I just want to score high enough to survive. I think now with each pick, you have to factor, especially in the NFC, who's going to win, the Seahawks or the Rams, who you think is going to win. And I think Lamarca, do you take Nakua even if you think Seattle's going to win the game? What do you think he was thinking there?
I don't know if he was thinking. Matt Lamarca is, we all know, notorious for having no strategy. I'm not sure. I mean, I know we'll see later, ended up going, with some Rams. So it gets a little bit of a stack there, but he also has some Seahawks on his team later. So not really sure. I probably would have gone with the Seahawk there. I think at this point, pretty cleanly, they have the highest odds to win the Super Bowl. In JSN, you have an absolute target monster, and in Kenneth Walker, you now have, the lead back playing at home. Had rest the week before, and now no Zach Charbonnet. I think I would have gone with Walker or JSN at the 101. But that's what you and I did back to back at 1-2 and 1-3. You went Kenneth Walker. I went JSN. And, talk to me about the decision between Walker and JSN.
Yeah. Before putting any thought into it, really, it was kind of like, it'll just be JSN. I'll take JSN. But again, starting in the wild card round, we were saying running back so shallow. And now with Charbonnet out, and we saw how good Walker was and how great he could have been this season if given more touches. No knock on Charbonnet. He made do with his touches. He scored plenty of touchdowns. But now I know Cam Akers has been elevated. Velus Jones is in the mix, but he has Jones 4 fumbles and 24 career carries. I don't want him. I don't want any part of him. So Walker now, I think he was the slam dunk pick at 2. And I'm with you where I probably would have taken him first overall. And these teams, divisional rivals, of course, looking at the game logs for the 2 matchups, Walker, not a ton of touches, but again, Charbonnet healthy for these. Last meeting, December 18th, 11 carries, 100 yards and a touchdown, caught 3 balls for 64 yards. And then in November, in the first meeting, 16 carries, 67 yards and a touchdown, caught 3 for 44. So double those numbers, maybe possibly for Walker in this game. So yeah, I think he's my 101, and that's why I took him second over JSN, who, but by the way, I have it pulled up. JSN 8-96-1, 9-105 in his 2 games against the Rams. Did pretty good for himself as well.
Yeah, I was hoping to get Kenneth Walker at 3. So definitely can't blame you for taking him at 2. But he's off the board, so I took JSN. And I will say, just kind of big picture, thinking about the strategy for how I want to approach this game. Now, as we know, the guillotine strategy, players, teams get chopped. Those guys hit waiver wire. So it's not as if you are locked in specifically to the team that you draft. You have opportunities in the next week to pick up guys who get chopped and to supplement that way. But I do think that, especially because it's double chop, the teams that get through are probably, at least in my thinking of this, are going to be teams that are heavy on Super Bowl players. And so I just kind of want to try to get a jump on that right away. And I'm looking at the NFL game model that we have at Fantasy Life. And, I'm showing a lean right now towards the Seahawks. Actually, I'm not even going to say lean, like pretty strong favoring to the Seahawks. And I think that the Broncos aren't nearly as dead as people might think.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is that I don't want to say I don't have respect for Bo Nix, but I think that Sean Payton is a really great offensive schemer and play caller. And he, we've seen it when he was in New Orleans, his ability to play to the strengths of quarterbacks who were not Drew Brees. Sean Payton's against the spread record with quarterbacks other than Drew Brees when he was with the Saints was very good. And I think that the drop off from Bo Nix to Jarrett Stidham is not as great as people will think, especially when we consider that. So 2 things. 1, Jarrett Stidham has been in the system for 3 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
He knows the offense. So that's number 1. Number 2, actually maybe 3 things. This will be number 2. He was literally the first player that Sean Payton signed when he joined the Broncos. And that was a 2-year contract, and they chose to re-sign him, right? Like, there's something about Jarrett Stidham that I think Sean Payton specifically likes. And Jarrett Stidham is not making trash money. Like he's making like solid backup money. And then I would say the third thing is that it's different, I think, with a game plan for Bo Nix. Bo Nix gets injured in the middle of the game, and then Jarrett Stidham comes in cold, right? Like all of a sudden they have to adjust on the fly. They don't necessarily have the same strengths. And like Jarrett Stidham has to kind of come in this situation that is very unfavorable. Here, he has the entire week to prepare. The offensive staff has the entire week to prepare, right? I think that makes a very big difference. And then I'm just continuing to add more points to this. The fourth thing is that we probably shouldn't give all that much credence to preseason, but in general, if a guy is going to play in the preseason, you at least want to see him play well, right? And Jarrett Stidham has smashed in the preseason whenever he has gotten opportunities. And again, I don't want to read too much into that, but it's better for a guy to play well in the preseason than to suck in the preseason. So like what we've seen out of him has been good. He knows the system. The team has time. And then I will just say, I guess this is the fifth point. I don't think that the Patriots are world beaters. Like they have done well with the schedule that they have had, right? Like good teams, when they're going against an easy schedule, you want to see them wipe the floor with their opponents. And that's what the Patriots have done, right? So like they have proven themselves against their schedule, but we shouldn't automatically say, well, this is a team that is just going to go in and steamroll. The Broncos have a really good defense. They have one of the best offensive play callers, and they have a strong home field advantage. So that's my way of saying entering this draft, I want to be probably a little more on the Broncos than your average drafter would probably want to be. And I want to be more on the Seahawks. I think people are going to want to be on the Seahawks anyway. But, you know, the market right now, if you look at DraftKings, FanDuel, wherever, the market right now has this at 2.5 points favoring the Seahawks. I have this more around 4.5 points. So I want to be a little more on the Broncos and a little more on the Seahawks than I think the average drafter would probably want to be. And so with that in mind, JSN available at the 1-3. That's the guy that I'm taking there.
Yeah, and just back to the Broncos quick. I'm with you. They certainly can win this game, especially if the defense shows up. You said the schedule for the Patriots been pretty soft. Yeah, they've steamrolled most of their opponents as they should have, but they've never played Denver. Drake May's never faced Denver, so he's most certainly never played in Denver. Being from North Carolina, going to UNC, I don't know how much experience he has playing at that kind of altitude. So yeah, it's going to be a tough environment for May. So yeah, Broncos can win this game, and if I don't want to jump ahead too much, and that is the reason I took Harvey in the second round. Well, I'm jumping ahead of you. I'll let you go ahead. Why did you not take Harvey instead of Stevenson? If you're kind of this has come to light now after post draft. Yeah. That always happens to me too. You look back and you're like, hindsight's 20/20, right?
So yes. So I took Jason at 1-3, and then Nando at the turn took Kyron Williams and Devontae Adams. So setting up there for a, theoretically setting up for a stack.
He's rooting for the Rams. He's rooting for the Rams big time. Yeah.
So then at the 2-2, it was either Ramondre Stevenson or RJ Harvey. And for me, even though I like the Broncos relative to the spread in this game, my number still favors it still favors the Patriots. And at that point, I still see like a big enough of a gap between Stevenson and RJ Harvey that I just was like, all right, I'm going to take Stevenson. And at this point, because two things, we talked about how running back gets really thin. If I had been able to grab Kenneth Walker in the first round, and if I could have come back and gotten RJ Harvey in the second round, I would have been fine with that. But given that Stevenson is my first running back, I feel like I'm basically, or whoever I take in the second round is my first running back. I feel like I'm a little bit against it, where now I'm just in a scenario of thinking I still need another running back after this one. And if I get RJ Harvey, I'm going in on the scenario of the Patriots losing. Whereas if I get Stevenson, I'm going in on the scenario of the Patriots winning, which means it's viable for me to take Trevion Henderson in the third round if he falls to me. So it was more about the way that the first round went for me and how I felt that kind of pushed me in a direction for the rest of the draft.
Yeah, I can dig it. I agree with that philosophy per se, and it's not a great matchup on paper for Harvey. It's very tough to run against the Patriots. Just ask Woody Marks, Nick Chubb, but I still went with Harvey. I think they're obviously going to lean on him in this game. Stidham is mobile too, by the way. Going back to him real quick from a fantasy perspective, but I see I would have taken Stevenson here if he had fallen. It was either I knew it was going to be Stevenson or Harvey's, but I went with Harvey. Again, I don't know if they're going to win this game, but I'm foreseeing at least a safe floor. Especially, I see a few more catches coming his way in this game too. So I took Harvey with my pick. I would have, if I didn't go running back here, it would have been Stafford. Kind of hedge my Walker pick in the first round, knowing I would have an elite option going into the Super Bowl if I survived. And I would like my chances of surviving with Walker and Stafford. But again, the running back's so thin, I grabbed Harvey there.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And so at the turn, the 2-3 turn, you had Lamarca grabbing Matthew Stafford to stack with Puka Nacua and then drafting Stephon Diggs after that. So, you went running back. I've already grabbed a running back. My, intention was to go running back if I could get Kenneth Walker in the first round. Nando already grabbed Kyron Williams, so he went running back there. We have Lamarca, in his first 3 picks, avoiding the position. We'll see how that treats him near the end of the draft. When he doesn't have any running backs, but when Stephon Diggs, Lamarca at 3-1, and then you came back with Hunter Henry at the 3-2. Talk about that one.
Yeah, tight end, it started shallow this postseason. So obviously even shallower now. Again, the biggest name has been eliminated. I think that was Colston Loveland, and I think Henry, the top option left, and Dalton Kincaid put up good numbers against the Broncos last week. Dawson Knox chipped in a little bit too. So overall tight ends, it's been the path of least resistance in the pass game has been for tight ends, not wide receivers against Denver. So I just filled that TE spot here.
Yeah, I would not have been disappointed if Hunter Henry had fallen a little bit in the draft, given now that I'm on the Patriots. But you took Hunter Henry. Next pick, I took Trevion Henderson at the 3-3. I feel like this is really the only team that we have left where you can get 2 viable running backs to fill your running back spots. So just grabbing Trevion Henderson while I can, and then hoping to fill out, the rest of the positions from there. Nando at the 3-4, leans even more into the Ram stack with Blake Corum. So he has Kyron Williams, Blake Corum as his running backs. And then he added J.K. Dobbins at the 4-1. I mean, we should look up the news on this. I don't think Dobbins has officially been activated off of IR yet.
Not as of this taping, but there is a possibility. And again, we're not doing a best ball draft here. So if the news comes out, Dobbins won't be activated. Nando can swap Dobbins out, but as one of his looking forward, I'm going down it's got to be a running back. So I think he reached a little early on Dobbins, even though the pool was pretty shallow at that point. But you never know. If he's active, they're going to give him some run, right? I mean, 10 carries, 10 carries, I would imagine. I think they're not going to activate him for no good reason. And I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. But he's not married to Dobbins here. But little bit of a roll of the dice in the fourth round.
I mean, it felt aggressive for sure. If Dobbins returns, I don't know, how much more he gets in terms of, usage, maybe 10 opportunities, but it's also, I mean, as much as I said everything great about Jarrett Stidham, it's still a backup quarterback, leading an offense. The offense might underperform. So, even fewer opportunities could be available for J.K. Dobbins, and he's returning from injury. It feels aggressive to take him at the 4-1. But hey, I mean, I'm happy because that means Drake May is available for me at 4-2. So taking Drake May to, just continue to stack the Patriots there. So JSN at the top for me, and then Stevenson, Henderson, and Drake May. And then we move on to the 4-3, where you also, I gotta say, you're honing in on my Patriots, man.
There's not a lot of teams left. Come on.
I know.
What am I going to do here? Yeah. I needed a wide receiver here. Obviously, I'm not going to go. I have my 2 running backs. I like to load up on running backs, but as we saw in the Dobbins pick, that might have been the best running back available. And so I'm not going running back there. And it was basically the best wide receiver on the board. And Sutton in name, I guess, is that, but he will draw primary coverage, from Christian Gonzalez and company for the Patriots. While on the other side, you would envision Stephon Diggs kind of getting more of the attention from Patrick Surtain. So I think Booty will have a little more room to run. I don't know how much the Patriots are going to be throwing come the second half. We'll see, but I just took Booty here. I needed a wide receiver, and coming off a great game against a very tough matchup in the Texans, so we could certainly do it again against the Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely needed a wide receiver. Booty definitely in the mix there. And so Sutton was left for Matt LaMarca at 4-4, and then he took Cooper Kupp at 5-1. So absolutely loading up at wide receivers and ignoring the running back position. And then you took Sam Darnold to pair with Kenneth Walker. You took Sam Darnold at the 5-2. Because at that point, Stafford is gone. I took Drake May the round before. So now it's a little bit of like this game of chicken between you and Nando in terms of who takes Sam Darnold and then who is left with Jarrett Stidham. Talk about taking Darnold in the 5th round.
Yeah, like you said, at this point, 2 quarterbacks are gone. So looking ahead, I see Nando. He's still to pick in this round, and then he has another pick to kick off the 6th. And, we were talking about Stidham earlier. Certainly can be a viable quarterback fantasy-wise, but, you can get through with Stidham, but there's a very good chance you're still stuck with him. If they make the Super Bowl, he's going to be your quarterback in the championship round, and I would much rather have Darnold than Stidham if that were the case. So I'm mitigating that risk, and really at this point, there's not a lot to love at the position, the skill positions. Maybe I could have survived to the 7th because I wouldn't take him in the 6th because Lamarck already has a quarterback. So maybe I could have got him in the 7th, but I don't want Stidham falling in my lap. I'll take my boy Darnold. And, I invested the most in the Seahawks with Walker in the 1st round. So I might as well, kind of double down on the Seahawks here. So come on, Sam. Let's see what Sam did real quick. I don't think he posted huge number. Well, he had that great comeback in the second game. That was amazing. So in the second game, Darnold had 270 and 279. That was the 4 interception game. That first meeting was a rough one for Darnold and company. But anyway, that was my mindset there.
Yeah. First game brutal. Second game definitely livable. And I mean, really, one of the, just in terms of a fan perspective, one of the memorable games that we had this past season. And it helps even more that it was in prime time. Speaking of prime time, let's talk about Xfinity. If you call yourself a sports fan, you got to have Xfinity, all the games all in one place. They have the Sports Zone where you can get every pro football game and over 1,000 college games with highlights and alerts all in one place. There's the Multi-View where you can be in up to 4 stadiums at once. The Xfinity Fan View with live scores, odds and stats all in one place and personalized for you. And then the stunning Xfinity Enhanced 4K and the voice remote, which makes watching football literally as easy as saying football. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Restrictions apply. New residential customers only. Taxes and fees are extra and subject to change. All right. So at the 5-2, Brian, you took Sam Darnold. I am continuing to lean into, or I want to lean into the Seahawks. I need a tight end. So I took AJ Barner at 5-3. I don't think he's as good of an option as Colby Parkinson or Tyler Higbee, Terrence Ferguson. But I think he's close enough. And if I think that the Seahawks are going to win, I just kind of want to have a tight end locked in. So went with Barner at the 5-3. All right, now Nando.
Hey, Barner in the 2 games this year, the most recent meeting, in December, 4 for 49 and a touchdown. November 16th, 10 catches, 70 yards.
That's true.
So,
yeah. I mean,
you get half of that production, one of those games, you'll be happy.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely don't hate it,
No.
All right. So after that, Nando at the turn for 5 and 6 went with Velus Jones, who we have listed as a wide receiver, just because that's how he, comes in.
Stat provider had him listed as when contest started, cannot be changed mid contest. So he will remain a wide receiver. But again, I don't know how much you want to, no matter where you're starting him, Velus Jones is not a very good football player from a fantasy perspective. I believe I saw four fumbles and 24 career carries. So they don't really want to be leaning on Velus too much.
Yeah.
Sorry, Nando. Not trying to dump on your team, Nando. I love you.
Yeah. Velus Jones and then Rashid Shaheed at the 6-1. I have to say, I was not expecting him to take Seahawks back to back there, given how much he invested early in the draft in Rams, Kyron Williams, Devontae Adams, Blake Corum. I thought I had a pretty good chance of getting Shaheed at the 6-2. If I had any thought that Nando might be attacking Seahawks, I would have gone Shaheed at the 5-3 and hoped that Barner would get back to me at the 6-2. Alas, live and learn. So at 6-2, I took Demario Douglas, wide receiver for the Patriots. So just continuing to stack onto the Patriots there. And then Brian at the 6-3, you took Colby Parkinson, who was followed by T. Higbee with Matt LaMarca at the 6-4.
Yeah, don't love either of our picks there now because Terrence Ferguson, back in action on Sunday, and he got some quality targets. He's back in the mix for sure. They like Terrence Ferguson, especially in the end zone. So I didn't like this pick a whole lot.
Yeah. You know who liked their pick even less? What Matt LaMarca had to do in rounds 7 and 8, because if you've been paying attention, you will notice LaMarca still has not taken a running back. So finally, at the first pick of the 7th round, he took Cam Akers, who I think technically is maybe not even on the active roster right now for the Seahawks. I think he will be when the game kicks off, but Cam Akers as the number 1 running back, LaMarca putting in the chat, he was elevated. So Cam Akers technically elevated to the active roster. We will see how much action he gets this upcoming Sunday, but Cam Akers 7-1. And this is kind of the point.
Hey, revenge game, baby. I love it. Bring in Akers against his former team.
Good point. The revenge game. All of a sudden, Matt LaMarca is feeling a lot better about Cam Akers. But this is kind of the point of if you don't go heavy in running back early on, Akers is the kind of running back that you're left with at the end of the draft. Whereas there are still some livable wide receivers and tight ends in this range of the draft. So I would rather go pretty heavy on running back early on and just kind of settle for some of the wide receivers and tight ends later. But
yeah, Akers is could be a bagel boy in the wrong way.
Yes,
usually want your bagel boys to be on bye week, but we'll see. I could see him. I could see him usurping Velus Jones. That's for sure. And be the backup.
Yeah, that could definitely happen. All right, so at the 7-2, you took Pat Bryant. So I will say we're at that part in the draft where it's just from here on out, it's almost all Broncos. And it's just sort of a question of how enthusiastic are you about the Broncos? Which wide receivers are you targeting? Are you kind of thinking that Pat Bryant might return, Troy Franklin might return, lots of ways of kind of viewing the Broncos situation. You took Pat Bryant at 7-2.
Yeah, I mean, for those who watched the game, I think most did. It's the Broncos' first drive Bryant had 3 catches, and they were all like quick hitters, kind of behind the line of scrimmage or just quick slants. And you would have to think that's kind of the game plan they're going to have for Jarrett Stidham. So, and then, but on that first drive, Bryant suffered the concussion, done for the day. But that will be 8 days of rest for him. Hopefully, he gets cleared. So, again, if he doesn't get cleared, I'll know in time to replace him via free agency. So. But he's been coming on strong. Rookie, slow start. Most rookies do, but they were looking Bryant's way more than Troy Franklin towards the end of the season. So I went Bryant over Franklin here. It was just kind of like pick your favorite Bronco scrap receiver at this point. I went with Bryant.
Yeah, we will certainly see with Pat Bryant. I'm a little more skeptical. He suffered a concussion earlier in the year too, and so with it being his second concussion this year, I'm not sure if 8 days will still be enough for him to get cleared. So I'm just kind of entering into this under the assumption that Troy Franklin is out, Pat Bryant is out, which means and remember, I'm okay with the Broncos, right? Like I think they will be okay this week.
Mm-hmm.
And for the last 2 picks, I'm okay with the idea of these are one-offs. Like increasingly, the further we get into the postseason with this contest, the more one-offs we're going to have. And so Marvin Mims, I took at the 7-3. I'm, very invested in the Patriots at this point, but hopefully Marvin Mims, if he is able to start and if Jarrett Stidham is not absolutely terrible, he's still able to have some functionality. So Marvin Mims at the 7-3 I took, and then Nando back-to-back Broncos here. Evan Engram at the 7-4, and then the long-awaited Jarrett Stidham pick at the 8-1. And by the way,
good-looking guy.
Yeah, I mean, very good-looking guy. And maybe better looking as a human than as a football player. But we'll see. Maybe he's
drafted by the Patriots. Patriots only draft the pretty boys. They have a very strict criteria for their quarterbacks.
I mean, that's true. And like, what is kind of fascinating?
Garoppolo, Drake May is kind of a pretty boy, even though he can ball. Brady, obviously pretty boy. Yeah, they love him.
Kevin O'Connell too, back in the day. Kind of forgotten Patriots pick there. By the way,
forget that.
Stidham pick brought to you by Pristine Auction, where they have something for every fan. If you are already registered use the code FANTASYLIFE at checkout for $25 off. If you're new, use the code FL20 to get $20 in credits. All right, so the Jarrett Stidham pick, fascinating. I'm fine, honestly, with the idea of waiting till the last round to get Jarrett Stidham, especially if you're able to stack him with Broncos and you're, kind of in on the idea that Broncos are going to win or at least keep this competitive. I'm fine with the idea of Jarrett Stidham in the 8th round because it at least frees you up to be able to attack other positions before then. So
I wouldn't attack J.K. Dobbins though, like Nando did. Sorry, no. Nando.
Yeah.
If you're waiting for the Stidham, yeah, I would be going heavier running back. I'm not saying I had the perfect draft, but looking back, I think Nando was planning on letting Stidham fall to him. He didn't have that option with the last pick. He could have been forced into not taking him, but knowing that, I would go running back if you are waiting for Stidham to fall in your lap.
Absolutely.
That would be my play.
If I were Nando and I were thinking, okay, I'm going to take Jarrett Stidham in the last round, or I'm at least open to the idea of Jarrett Stidham in the last round. And, I think in most drafts, people will let Jarrett Stidham fall to you, but especially if you are at the 8-1, where you are going to have the first shot at Stidham in that last stanza. I go Kyron Williams at the 1-4, and I go RJ Harvey at the 2-1. Because if you're thinking I want Stidham, then you should probably be going a little bit harder at Broncos anyway. And if that's the case, RJ Harvey, you're getting the guy who pairs with Stidham at the running back position, and you're solidifying, in the first 5 picks, the position that is going to be the thinnest in the draft. So yeah, I think that's the way I would have approached it if I were Nando.
Love you, Nando. Thanks for drafting with us.
So Nando takes Jarrett Stidham, and then sticking with the idea that I'm okay with the Broncos and that I think Troy Franklin will be out, Pat Bryant will be out. I go with Lil Jordan Humphrey, who, at this point, if those other wide receivers are out, is going to be a starting wide receiver in this game. So,
caught a touchdown, should have had 2.
Exactly.
Dropped. Yeah. He can play. Former Saint.
So
didn't he get somewhere else in between the Saints and the Broncos
he
here?
Played with the Giants. I think he played like one game or something with the Giants, a couple of games with the Giants earlier this year.
Ooh, possible.
Yeah.
Lamarca will help us out with that one probably.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Lamarca mentioned it. There we go. So yeah. So Lil Jordan Humphrey at the 8-2, and then you come back with Terrence Ferguson. So double dipping.
Yeah. A Ram is going to catch a Ram tight end is going to catch a touchdown in this game. It's a good matchup for tight ends against the Seahawks. So I got a 66.6% repeating chance. It's going to be. So I said so now drafting this team. I got Parkinson and Ferguson. I will bet anytime touchdown on Higbee because I got to hedge all my tight end options here. But yeah, Ferguson came right back in last week. Like I said, doesn't play 80% of the snaps by any means, but when he's in, they look his way. He's an able receiver.
It's going to be catastrophic for you when Davis Allen catches 2 touchdowns as the number 4 tight end for this team.
I have to bet that one too. All right, I'll throw a duck on Davis Allen as well.
All right, and then finishing out the draft, Matt LaMarca at the 8-4 still needs a running back. He takes Jaleel McLaughlin. I mean, if Dobbins actually does end up playing, then LaMarca just has absolutely nothing going on at running back. But I mean, hey, if Nakua and Stafford and Diggs and Sutton go off, what happens at running back might not matter.
Yeah, I mean, really, there are going to be 3 or 4 players that have monster games this weekend.
Yeah. And
all you need is to have one of them to have a good chance of surviving. It was Kenneth Walker last week. But yeah.
All right. So
we're still rolling at GuillotineLeagues.com.
That's the draft. So, talk a little fab. So, obviously for people who, drafted teams in the wild card round or in the divisional round, who were not chopped, you have fab considerations, you have players available on waivers for you to attack. Anything stand out to you, Brian, when you're looking at your guillotine teams that are still alive?
Yeah, I mentioned this earlier. Looking at one in particular, and LaMarca, if you want to pull up my screen again, I got the roster pulled up. But again, so many players scored high, but their teams were eliminated. Josh Allen, Bo Nix, well, he just eliminated himself with that ankle injury. But I think a lot of people are going to find themselves in a similar situation like I am here, where looking at my roster, Caleb Williams will be gone, Swift will be gone, Odunze, Kincaid, Marks, Jennings. So I got Shaheed and Travion Henderson left. And going to the free agents, I know I've all my fab left. These are the best players available. I have $1,000, and the next team up has $850. They already have a quarterback. So I don't think they're going to go for a quarterback. And then the next highest up has $304, needs a quarterback. So I have 2 options here. I secure Stafford, who even though I like the Rams or the Seahawks to win, I like Stafford a little more from a fantasy perspective. I can lock him up for $305, just in case the team that needs a quarterback goes all in for Stafford. Or I could, I would bid on Darnold as well, prioritize a lower bid on Darnold above Stafford, and then go harder for 2 other players, which really looking at this, it's Kyron Williams and Devontae Adams. So how I'm looking at this, like I'm going to go lighter, get Darnold, bypass Stafford, and basically put $450-ish on Williams and Adams and just go all in on those 2 guys and try and get Darnold. And then going back to my team, I would have Darnold, Henderson, Williams, Shaheed, Adams, and then I would fill just my tight end with replacement level guys. But I think a lot of people are going to find themselves in a situation like this where you advance, but a lot of your players are no longer in the playoffs. So I think at most, if you have all your fab left and you're only going to get 2 or 3 big name players, and if you need a quarterback, that really throws a wrench in your plans. Because I do need to. I mean, I could go roll with Stidham again, but I'm not as much of a believer as you or Nando are. Not saying you're all in on him or anything like that, but I do want Darnold or Stafford. So I don't know. That's kind of my mentality here. But it's interesting. Puka Nacua not available. He did not have a big game, but whoever had him in this league probably had Kenneth Walker or something. But I see Puka Nacua being available in a lot of leagues. He and Devontae Adams did nothing from a fantasy perspective, even though the Rams are still alive. But it's going to be hard to get more than 2 or 3 big name players because there's not many left. That's simple.
So thinking about your roster here, I agree with the assessment. I think kind of regardless of what happens at quarterback, you can survive it. You know, even if it is Stidham, you can survive that. But you have to get Kyren Williams or Devontae Adams. I feel like you have to get one of those two. You know, if you could get both, that would be fantastic. But yes, those would be the guys that I would go hard after.
Yeah, no doubt. I will throw a bid on Stidham. That'll be my third highest in terms of priority. Will be a low bid on Stidham, but I can get by on Stidham. I'll try and get Darnold and Stafford on a slip through the cracks type bid. But yeah, I'm going to go hard, as you said, for Williams and Adams.
All right,
and root against my Seahawks. We'll see what happens.
Looking at the guys who were the most chopped coming out of the divisional round, Devontae Adams. You know, you mentioned did very little, chopped in 27.9% of leagues, as was Zach Charbonnet. One of those, much more understandable than the other one. Also chopped Hunter Henry, Woody Marks, Trevion Henderson, Matthew Stafford, Jawan Jennings. And so, in a number of leagues, Devontae Adams, Hunter Henry, Trevion Henderson, those guys are available. So definitely Devontae Adams would be someone to attack. And then, you mentioned it earlier, Brian, in the draft, the tight end position now with no George Kittle, no Colston Loveland, pretty thin, and Hunter Henry really might be the best of the group. And so, available in 27.6% of leagues, based on the chop rate from last week. So, those would be guys to attack.
Yeah, even if you, I don't know how comfortable you can be at tight end without Hunter Henry, but say you are comfortable at tight end with Evan Ingram, you're not comfortable. But what I'm getting at is Hunter Henry, I think, is flex worthy this week. Worth going after, even to fill a flex spot, or if you want to, it's worth moving your current tight end to flex. But I like Henry's matchup a lot against Denver. Again, give up good amount of fantasy points to Kincaid and Knox combined last week.
And I think, even potentially bigger than the matchup of this week with the Broncos is the fact that now you start having an eye towards the Super Bowl. And, it's not just for this week that you're getting Hunter Henry. You could be getting the best tight end in the Super Bowl, given that the Patriots are, fairly significant favorites, 5.5 point favorites entering this game. So, maybe all the more incentive to go after Hunter Henry this week in the fab markets.
One undervalued tight end or even low level flex option and with better chance of advance. Austin Hooper. Don't sleep on Austin Hooper. He always seems to kind of show up when you're really wanting Hunter Henry to do something. So dumpster diving, Austin Hooper is a $0 guy. For those that might have, there might be someone out there. If you're listening out there, tweet it at Freedman or myself. I'm at BTXJ. I bet there's advancing teams with no players right now. There has to be.
Yeah.
Every player of their team has been eliminated. I want to see one.
All right. So let's close out, Brian. I know we've kind of talked to some strategy with the Guilloteenies. Thought about kind of ways of approaching these drafts. I talked earlier about, how I project these. Who do you see being in the Super Bowl in, a few weeks from now?
I even though they got a shot, I think New England wins. And the real Super Bowl is the NFC Championship. We've seen this before, where I feel like the conference championship has been whoever wins will win the Super Bowl, and it's going to be a good game. I gotta lean Seattle though. Rams have been bouncing around the country this postseason. Seattle's been kind of chilling, and I think that the way the Rams essentially blew, the last meeting, gave up the number 1 seed. I think that's going to linger a little bit. I think Seattle takes it home. Seattle, New England.
Yeah, I'm with you on Seattle, and I mean my projection says New England, but relative to the market, I'm pretty strong on the Broncos. So I'm going to still lean in that direction. And so I'm going to say Seattle, and then the Broncos, win a tight game, a game that very few people think that they can win. And then they just absolutely get clobbered it's a rematch where no one actually ends up being, in this game that was in the game. Was it like 12 years ago, or it was Seahawks against the Broncos, the Peyton Manning Broncos, and the Seahawks, the Legion of Boom Seahawks just absolutely thrashed the Broncos. We get a theoretical rematch of that game. And I think we could see a similar outcome.
Yeah, Seahawks, well, if they win, if they go to the Super Bowl, they're guaranteed for a rematch, because then the one they lost recently to the Patriots, that was should have given it to Marshawn game.
That's true.
The Richard Sherman.
Yeah. History repeats itself. All right, so you heard it here. Seahawks definitely going to the Super Bowl, and we are split on Patriots and Broncos. All right, so that's going to do it for this Guilloteenie focused conference championship edition of Chop, the Guillotine League podcast. For Brian, for producer Matt LaMarca, I'm Matthew Freedman, reminding you that it's not a fantasy if you believe it.